22.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Good morning. Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining today. Today may be a very unique day. It may be a special day. It may be maybe none of those things, but it has the potential. As I put in the title below this visual card you see at my left, stage right, UNIFY with a moment of silence at 2:22 p.m. on 2/22/22. I put in a chat, if enough people would focus on positivity worldwide, the energy produced can have earth-shattering, changing events. This is the moment. Don't let it slip you by. And, you know, it's true. I guess it would be, well, it's my left, so it's stage left. It's your right, just to be technical from a theatrical point of view, what I said before about the image. Yeah.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Yeah, welcome to the show. We knew this day was coming. And there are some announcements and all sorts of other different things that are happening on this day. And, you know, considering that there are time zones, obviously, around the world, so at any given moment, currently it's 4:20 a.m. Eastern Time, which has a significance to some people, on the 22nd of February, which is 2/22/22, and in different areas, some people don't put the month before the date, so some people it's 22/2/22, but we're all going to have a 2/22 time period, or at least 2 p.m. And the idea, there are people who are into numerology and all of that sort of stuff, but this is a perfect example of a time, no matter what you believe in, all right? It doesn't have anything to do with religious significance, anything of that. You don't have to be some kind of new age person, whatever you want to call it. You don't even have to be spiritual at all. You just have to understand the concept that matter is formed out of energy. This we know, the universe, even scientists who accept, the Big Bang Theory, which is the predominant, by far, theory of the origins of what we know, of the matter we know, a theory nonetheless. However, that said, it's still the concept that there was a single point a singularity, energy, which in turn brought forth all the matter that makes up the known universe, including ourselves, our physical bodies. And over the millennia, many wise men, there have been many scrolls, books, documents, stories passed down verbally, carved into rocks, carved into structures. All sorts of texts that refer to the idea of the power of energy and the focus of that energy. And sometimes, without getting too into specifics, which I don't really necessarily want to do, but I never know where these shows go because they are a flow of consciousness and they're not scripted. I don't script my shows. But, in some instances, you see people using some kind of talisman or some sort of thing, handheld thing they have. There's various names for all sorts of things that people use. Specific buildings or structures that have been made. References to, all sorts of things that have, from the things that, lines of kings to, the dynastic period of Egypt back to the Sumerians, and we now know we go further back, well, beyond that, before the, the end of the last glacial period on this planet. We don't even know how old we are or how old intelligence on this planet is. Anthropologists now, I believe, have taken it back as far as 300,000 years in their world, their line of study, what they would call modern man, so to speak. Meaning, assuming that the individual you met from 300,000 years ago was able to learn our language or you theirs, you would be able to have a conversation just like this with them. Others will say millions, right? And I've posed on this broadcast several times the idea that a planet being 4.5 billion years old and that our existence in this interglacial period, say within this past 10, 12,000 years or so, after the last cataclysm, the so-called Great Flood, which story exists worldwide, hundreds of stories of the same event, that there could quite easily, over that deep time, many millions of years ago, or even a billion years ago, had been a brief period of time where at least another 12,000 years there was a livable spot on this planet or areas in which civilization could well have risen. And then we have the question of the missing link, and then it goes down a rabbit hole of all sorts of other beliefs. But that's a brief history of mankind, in a nutshell, in less than 10 minutes. But the idea of today is, contemplate this. And if you're just tuning in and it's around 2 p.m. today, say, I do these shows, again, this is live. It's like 4:27 a.m. This show's coming to you live via YouTube. which gives you plenty of time to prepare, or set an alarm on one of your devices or on your computer to remind you. And the idea is that all of us at the exact same moment will take, and there are videos on the internet explaining this in a little more detail. And the concept here, and I'll pull this out. I've taken a screen capture of the YouTube video. And it's called UNIFY. And it's a global peace meditation, they're saying. And this is from 2 days ago. And what's really unfortunate about this, I found out this originally through Dr. Beth McDougall. And I noticed she even had less views on her piece. But I mean, but this seems to be the official site. They only have 7,000 subscribers, and this received 460 views, and it premiered only 2 days ago. And in case you can't read this, if you're looking at this on a small device, it says, on 2/22 at 9 a.m. Pacific time, our live broadcast begins, culminating in a global synchronized meditation at 2 p.m., 2:22 p.m. Pacific time, is the height of the global peace movement. So if you're on the east coast of the United States, that would be like 11:22, obviously a 3-hour difference. But it doesn't matter, because if enough people get involved with this, as they go on to say, it's the height of the global peace movement. Please join us in a shared moment of silence at 2:22 p.m. from whatever time zone you are in. And so the ideal would be if we were all focusing on the same things at the same time. Obviously, the energy, that consciousness energy, that power would be, would be incredible. So I advise you to get involved. What do you have to lose to spend a few moments focusing on, like I put on my thing, and I'll just, I'll bring this back up in a little while. It's called UNIFY. You can look this up, on YouTube and find it. I'm sure they're probably on other platforms. I hope they are. If not, after the show, I'll download it and put it on my some of my other sites. But what I'm saying is, would it be so hard to just sit in silence, even if you happen to be in a workplace, for just a moment, and just think, pray, meditate, focus on peace, love, harmony, health, enlightenment? I think all of those things on the bottom are important. Those are words that I came up with, because those are things that are important to me. This is a unified peace movement, so I think peace and harmony is what they're really doing. This idea of sharing love, togetherness, the type of stuff that people used to talk about in the 60s and the early 70s. And then once we got over all those tumultuous times, then life became fun, and then fun drew into a materialistic existence. And before you knew it, the hippies became yuppies, and the yuppies became Wall Streeters, and now they're retirees living the good life. Which is fine, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. It's like they've lost touch with their roots. And so they play lip service to these young people that have come forth either to, have some kind of retro movement of protest or that sort of thing, things that this country already went through and went through really, really hard to bring us to a point of peace, love, harmony, and enlightenment. I intentionally left out health there because for me personally, health is a big issue. I have no problem. I've come full circle. I have no problem with, peace, love, harmony, and enlightenment. I've gone down those paths and I continue to try to keep that, in my heart, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But just on a personal note, and, since this is my daily vlog and people who do follow me, I had a video appointment with my surgeon, the one who did the cancer surgery. I had my radical prostatectomy about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago this time. He's a really nice guy, very great, really good surgeon. But, very, very well versed in medicine. And like I say, he's a working surgeon. He's in there every day, literally performing operations on people. He knows the human anatomy, particularly the abdomen, quite well, put it that way. And he's at the height. I think he's at the height of his I would say career, but I don't mean it in that sense. I mean career in the sense of, being at the height of his game, perhaps is a better way to express it. So I guess we're kind of, casual friends in a sense, I mean, I consider him a friend because I've gone through so much with him because I also had some kidney surgery and stuff. And so there was almost a year of my life where, we were, meeting on a regular basis, and in one way, shape, or form, he was somehow ended up at my bedside in the hospital, or was working on something, to keep this physical form functioning. And of course, I've had this gallbladder problems. And while I was talking, well, it's not his profession, as far as his area, that he focuses on. He's more deals with the lower abdomen area, But, he's quite familiar with as he referred to it, the upper right quadrant where the liver and gallbladder are. And so he knew what I was talking about, and he was able to pull up on his screen. We were doing a video. Like I said, it was a video meeting as opposed to me going down there. And looked like he already had come out of a surgery and was probably going to be going back into one. He was all. But anyway, he recommended, get the surgery, and better to do it while you're not having an attack than to have to go into an emergency situation. It's an easier thing to do, this, that, the other. And I just don't want to do it. Like I said, I've had my kidneys operated on because I had an oversized kidney stone that could have threatened, blockage or something like that. And that took several attempts. So it was multiple procedures to get that taken care of. And my kidneys seem to be functionally fine now. Like I say, this guy is a good surgeon. And then they discovered through that, because of some biopsy that they had to take, while they were trying to get into the kidneys through various, areas. And that's when they discovered that I had cancer, prostate cancer. And then I had to go through that whole situation. Like I say, that's been 2 years now, and so far I'm cancer-free at this point and hoping it stays that way. And I eat a very healthy diet. And it's the same with this gallbladder. For the past 2 months, I've focused on eating, I guess what you would call a gallbladder diet, which took me a lot of research because no one wants to give you that kind of information. They just want to cut it out. And even he recommended that, and he was looking at it on the screen. He saw that I do indeed have gallstones. And there's no doubt about it. And there is a potential that a gallstone can get lodged in a bile duct, could cause complications, and some of those complications could be very serious. And if you don't have an intervention in a certain amount of time, conceivably you could die. But there are several, schools of thought that it's possible that, maybe I could cleanse this thing or minimize these things or prevent it or keep things in a sense of where they don't get any worse, and I could live through this. It's a decision I have to make personally. I probably will meet with the doctors, if and when they call me. The surgeon that would be doing something like this, and I'll take it into consideration. But the side effects and all that stuff of this are just I don't know. I just don't want to have to do it. And I can't believe in the year 2022 that we've reached a point where we're still just cutting open people and removing organs because we can't because we haven't put the focus. We put focus on military contractors we've spent trillions of dollars on for war machines. And one has to wonder that if over the past 20 years, all those trillions of dollars by those contractors was focused on a concept, because a gallbladder operation is one of the most common operations out there. Someone knows someone who's had their gallbladder removed. That's how common it is. It's like prostate cancer starting to become. It's like practically everybody knows somebody. Now, if you tuned in for the 22222, I'm going to be talking about that in a second, but this kind of ties into it. And you'll see. And so, we focus so much on, putting these trillions and trillions of dollars into these war machines and into political campaigns, and people think nothing to donate, to some candidate for, what I call the cult of personality. And then the money goes to ads, and all those ads on these various television or even now YouTube and Rumble channels, all that money ultimately goes, particularly in a political year, it's somehow channeled into campaign ads or the news readers who are just focusing on talking about stories about wars and political gamesmanship. Politics has become, like I say, it's like a team sport. People, they're on red team, blue team or something. Or in certain places, it's like a league, so you have more than two teams. Those in the U.S., it's pretty much two predominant teams. But some other places, they have like a league. It's not funny. And so you take an organ the size of a small potato, a gallbladder, it fills up with a few crystallized cholesterol, or what they call bilirubin. It sounds like a kid You'd know, growing up. And is a reservoir for bile coming out of the liver, maybe education for some, that helps break down fatty foods, which in turn helps pull things like vitamin A, D, E, and K out of that. Those are fat soluble vitamins. I'm not even entirely clear on whether or not it's crucial to you getting those vitamins. Because, like, in other words, if you take a supplement or if you eat healthy foods, I don't appear to have vitamin deficiencies, So I'm not sure. Like I say, there's been such a focus on cut it out, that it's virtually impossible to find information, non-contradictory information. It's like the internet's like anything else. There's a wealth of information. If you do a search, you get millions of results, sometimes a billion results. But who can go through a billion pages? So maybe somewhere back on page 10,403, somebody's got the answer. But would take you a lifetime to get to that page. That's why I always say the internet's broken. And Wikipedia seems to be changed at the whim of whoever happens to be in charge, or the people who want to make a change to fit a narrative or something like that. You can't trust it, And the same goes even with some of the so-called health sites. They're contradictory, non-committive, And so what I'm hoping that if you are involved in this, not just for my sake, but this is kind of a plea for me, but a plea for all the other people as well, is not only that we have peace in the world, but that we have health. And if matter comes from energy, and our consciousness, as we talk about often, the hard problem of consciousness, the idea that consciousness is something that is detached from our bioelectric brain, this physical manifestation, this material, this is matter. We're composed of matter. This is, I'm touching something. But that this energy, and even saying bioelectric brain, there's energy like passing through there, right? The connections, the human body, the body electric, right? That you also focus on health. And maybe if enough of us get together and just whatever you think it is. See, your approach. That's why I say you don't have to think of this. If you are someone who is a religious person, then you would pray. If you are someone who is a spiritual type of person, like a monk or someone like that, or somebody that follows, Buddhism or New Buddhism or certain things. You might want to meditate. But if you don't particularly align yourself with any of those things, or you're loosely aligned, then the idea is to just focus on it. Think about it, is what I'm saying. At the very least, think peace. Think love, think harmony, and think health, and think enlightenment, so that people are basically kind of awakened in the sense of understanding the absurdity that's all around us right now, and the paths that we've taken, and how we've kind of wasted this interglacial period. 12,000 years since the ice melted in North America. What was it, 10,600 years maybe? Something like that. The Younger Dryas period, they call it. We've talked about this catastrophe cycle. I told you yesterday, Doug Vogt from the Diehold Foundation has another video out, newer video out. He was sick for a while. But no matter what you look at, where this is coming from, whether you're somebody who reads the latest scientific journals, that talk about, the Earth's magnetic field weakening, that conveyor in the Atlantic that has Northern Europe warmer than technically it should be for its particular latitude that it's in. Whether you're some kind of climate person that's, caught up in that whole scene. The idea is that wherever you come from, it's time to come together and find some kind of common ground. And the common ground has to be peace, love, harmony, health, and enlightenment. Because what do we know? What do we really know? And I know there's all these people out there that will have their ideas about a thing. Well, but when, what do we really know? Well, when you say a thing, and you're so self-assured about it that you'll argue it, right? Confront people with it. Where did that information come from? A teacher, a textbook, the internet? Well, these things were created by people. Many people where did their ideas come from? Their ideas were merely accepted by a group of people. In the journals, they call it peer-reviewed. So a group of people have accepted a particular article to publish in a journal. In a school system, they have these school administrators. And they, I guess they accept what curriculum will be acceptable and, allowed in the school system in whatever area they operate. In the media, they have various editorial staffs or people along those lines. Politicians, they have people working for them. And mostly they get their information from lobbyists or these government think tanks, contractors, people who make presentations. It's all like a corporate world. It's like somebody standing in front of a room of people making a PowerPoint presentation, some slideshow or scribbling on a chalkboard or whiteboard or some kind of electronic board with a laser pointer or something. Mouse of some kind. So we need real enlightenment, the truth. We need to focus on health. I need you to focus on my health. I want to be better, and I want people like me not to suffer, not to have to go through this, not to have these operations. And the aftermath of this particular operation is a life of misery. It really is. It's a life of misery. And then this idea about war, this jingoism about war over in Ukraine and Russia stuff again. They just won't let that go. There's too many old timers left over from the Cold War, and I guess too many young ones that came up and are just heard this stuff as kids or played army as children or whatever. And what do they know? Do they really understand the socioeconomic geopolitics of the world? Do they? Or is it just what they believe to be true? That's a thing. That's why I say enlightenment. So again, it doesn't matter what you believe. I'm very disappointed. I have no one watching me now, but that's understandable because it's 4:53 a.m. right now. So it's early in the morning. Most people are sleeping. I should probably be sleeping. My cat was like walking all over me like he does. Just doesn't come down. He used to prowl, I guess, around the house in the old days, but now he just stays in the bedroom and like walks all over me. It's really weird. It's a healthy cat, though. I mean, but one of the reasons I get up, I'm woken. And it's not like he's dying for food, too, because then I'll put out a little bit for breakfast type stuff for him, and he just nibbles a little bit. His main meal isn't until, he doesn't really eat until I usually eat. I mean, I had a little breakfast. I have some cereal, some oats and blueberries and things like that I eat in the morning. But, I mean, I won't have my main meal for, 4 or 5 hours from now, which will call it a main meal. Isn't a main meal. It's just basically a bowl of salad. But I eat healthy. I have to. If I don't, I could have an attack and end up in the hospital emergency room. But I'll do that. I won't have ice cream for the rest of my life. I'll never have a slice of pizza. I'll never eat, certain foods, right? I'll never have a bag of chips, I could, I could sacrifice that sort of thing, with the trade-off is, and I'm not even going to get into what the side effects, and some of them are long-lasting and could be lifelong lasting. I won't even tell you what they are. You don't even want to know if I were to go through with this thing. It's quality of life. It's not just living. It's like I always say, it's one thing to survive, but you want to thrive. It's like I always talked about the people in the survivalist movement type of thing. Who the heck wants to live, survive in a bunker scared, and constantly on the defensive, right? For roving marauders, living in a Mad Max dystopian world. If I'm going to survive, I want to thrive. I want to live pretty much the way I live now. I don't live in the lap of luxury. I've got, today's a rainy day in my area. It's supposed to be. I don't know if it's raining yet. See, the weather's just starting to change. It's 100% chance of rain, but it looks like it doesn't start till about 8 o'clock or so. So this show will be long since over. At least raining in the daytime, I could go up in my attic and I could manage where the leaks are. I have a leaky roof. So I know so far, the show.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
But, whatever. And for some people,
this is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
But it doesn't have to be. How did we get to this point? And the idea is there are people out there that aren't asking for any money, that are just saying, what if we just unify, got together for this moment in time, and just all focused on global peace, And under that category, obviously, comes love, harmony, health, and enlightenment. Well, health is the one I'm throwing in there. Because, if you think about it, health is very broad. It's not just particular, it's the neglect of, of the leading causes of death and suffering in throughout the world. which are insane. In the United States alone, like some over 2 million people die of things that are basically preventable, treatable, curable. Then that's unfortunate. But at the same time, we just create these wars instead of just talking things out. I don't want to get into politics. You can watch one of my videos where I talked about we have no business being in Ukraine. That's as far as I'm going to go with that. But I want to stick back to this 2/22/22 at 2. And I'll just show you this thing. I mean, I might bring this up a couple of times in the course of the show. But like what really gets me is that this appears to be the official site. I don't know. Or I mean the official video. But the idea that there was only 460 views when I went to it this morning and did this screen capture, 16 likes. And I went to Dr. Beth is where she's the one that turned me on to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to display capture. I know it looks strange on my computer. I'm going to go new window and go to YouTube. And you could see my video for some reason is actually showing this time. And I'm going to put in UNIFY. And you could see it does come up. And this one, 344 views. But see, this is the channel UNIFY. I'll subscribe to it. Let's go to it. And you can see they've got some, among their videos are what you would expect. That type of thing. Community. How to transmit peace to your friends and family. UNIFY stewards and facilitates global collective intention, action, and impact to help build a world where all of humanity is unified. I know some people to this seems like socialistic type of thing and stuff, but it's really not. That's the bad rap, that the corporatist and the transhumanist and the, technocrats have tried to place on this idea, the idea of outlawing or making love look like it's a bad thing. This is something different that UNIFY notes. So there are other UNIFY things, but see, this is the tragedy to me. 90 views. I'm going to go to this thing again and I don't know if you've seen this video. I'm going to download it. I'm going to try to turn my microphone on to that. Anyway, as you can see. And like I say, there are some people out there who they find these things. Just get rid of that. They think, oh, this is just more of this wokeism hooey or something like that, right? And the idea is that, no, this is the complete opposite of that. Because, the problem is the divisiveness in this is one person trying to point a finger at another person constantly, or another group, or name calling, or all that kind of stuff. It's time we end all of that. It's all part of the same thing. The problems we have in the world are because we're not unified on the thing. In other words, in basic diplomacy, put it that way, the idea of unifying and is finding common ground. It's agreeing to disagree on certain things, but coming together on the other ones, or saying, what is it that we can agree on? And let's see if we can solve the problems at hand that are creating the conflict that are here. The so-called bigots, racists, and war profiteers, and all these kinds of people, they don't number as high as you think. But yet they always seem to be the justification for violence and everything. It's like what we've seen go on, just recently even in Canada. It's the idea that just because you disagree, with something, and someone tries to have a peace. See, I've said for years that I'm not a protester. I'm not into that kind of rally thing. See, I like this idea to me, right? Energy, the material world is produced by energy. That's science. That's sound science. You don't have to be, of any religious, spiritual background to understand that. Even the atheist, can relate to that, because that's the basis. Matter is produced by energy initially. That's the Big Bang theory, the best we have so far. Right? I mean, even Einstein's theory, and I don't agree with everything Einstein said. But I mean, these things, this is common ground. And so it's better in the privacy of your home, your little work carrel, your office, a classroom, I don't know, a quiet spot on a hill, your backyard, your bedroom, your kitchen, your sofa. Turn off the TV at 2 p.m. and just sit there, in silence. And like I say, it's whatever it is. You don't have to be some kind of yogi, some kind of guru, some kind of priest, priestess, right? Shaman. You don't have to get into this idea of chakras and all these other things. I mean, people have built 1,000 things. Look at all these trucks speeding up here. Going to feed plants, power plants with coal. Across the street, you can't see it. I wish this camera was better. But I was trying to go to sleep last night, and there was this noise, and I'm looking, and I was going to take a picture this morning. I don't know if the sun will rise. I think the sun might rise before this show is over. There's this giant, like, earth moving machine that they're digging up again, the street, just right across the street from me. This would be like the 4th time that they've dug over there. It's the year 2022. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm saying. And, when you look at that video and you see there were 400 some views. How did that? Yeah, it didn't like it. Hasn't jumped up much, but there were at least some more likes. I was the 28th person to like it. It was 16 when I went right before my show, 16 likes. They don't number the dislikes anymore, That will offend people. Though I'd be interested in that, because I'm sure there are people out there that dislike these things. Because they feel as if, how could you be against peace, love, harmony, health, and enlightenment? Well, because your livelihood comes because your spouse or parents work for military contractors. See, I've always had this idea of retooling, because we've successfully done that as a people so many times throughout history, where we've retooled, in other words, a factory it did a certain thing into doing something similar, but not to produce the same product. And so why couldn't, these pharmaceutical companies, big pharma, we have big data, we have military contractors, big ag, obviously the Fed, Wall Street. And I call that collectively the corporatocracy. Some people call it, they have different names for it. People who focus on the technical end, they say we live in a technocracy. But they leave out, that leaves out certain things, like big pharma, even though it's all technical stuff. I see there's some new releases about CDC documents being withheld and stuff like that. That's what enlightenment is. Enlightenment is the truth. If we could just focus on, if they would just tell people the truth, if the companies, corporations, whatever you want to call them, would put their focus on health. And that doesn't mean where Apple Computer or Apple, they're no longer Apple computers, coming out with a watch that checks your heart rate, how many steps you've taken, or even, your blood sugar, which is a good thing. And I'm all for that, if it does that. No, I'm talking about getting involved in things that will dissolve. Why doesn't Big Pharma, you're telling me Big Pharma can't come up with a potion, a shot that could dissolve gallstones? I mean, these things are basically like crystals created by, mainly cholesterol. That's the vast majority of them, because the liver produces cholesterol, unlike people who think they're eating high cholesterol foods and stuff like that. It's like the liver, the human body produces the most cholesterol. So you're telling me they can't come into something. I mean, there may have to be an invasive procedure. They may have to literally stick, a needle of some sort or a probe of some sort into a stomach, an abdomen. Right? But it's quite possible they could inject something, or it could be a pill. that would keep the bile ducts wide enough. I mean, it's understandable if someone had a gallstone the size of a golf ball in there, that's a problem. And I understand people do have that. But I happen to see my thing, and it's like I pretty much have the classic. I have stones. They're not tiny. I mean, they are potentially, problematic. But they're not so huge as if they couldn't be dissolved if Big Pharma wanted to. And if Big Tech would get involved. If Elon Musk would look at it. But that's just one thing. There are other areas. This has happened to be something that's affecting me. And it's on my mind, and I'm using it as an example more so. And I do say, yeah, and if you are the type of person that prays, meditates, and focuses and fixates on that, I hope you do. I could use a prayer or two. But not just for me alone, for people like me who are in this predicament, this quandary. I'm just trying to live. I'm just trying to survive and thrive. I just want to be happy. That's all. I already have a situation where I don't have a sense of community. I live alone with a cat who's getting older, probably won't be with me forever. And then I'll just be me alone in a house with a leaky roof. I know, poor, pitiful me. But you know how many millions and upon millions, if not billions, of people, when you open it up to the world, live like this? What's wrong with us? And we spend billions, if not trillions of dollars on wars and politics. Things that don't do anything, but kill more people and cause more misery. There are answers to these things. There are answers to it besides profit. And so maybe if matter is produced by energy, and if enough of us can get together today and focus our energy, our thought power, right? Which is scientifically proven. Otherwise, you may as well throw away Einstein's theories and the Big Bang Theory and most of other science, right? They're all based on energy. And that's it. Energy produces matter. So that means that it's possible, even for you religious, I'm not a Bible quoter, because I'm not a memorizer. I said the other day, I had trouble memorizing my times tables. That's not how my mind works. I'm like kind of a creative guy. People get into this left brain, right brain type of thing. I'm driven by, I wrote 10 books. I wrote 50 songs. I do these kinds of things. I talk freely like this. I don't have a script. I have a creative driving force. People give me a problem and I can usually solve it for them. I create things. I grow stuff. This is my garden. This is what gives me joy and happiness. And I like sitting on that chair back by that garage, which is my little workshop area too, and that little mini greenhouse I built, and soaking up sun. That's what I want to do this year. I don't want to be unable to do that and create a garden because I will have had this operation that's going to keep me down for so many months. And I won't be able to be down on the ground, bending, digging, using a shovel, carrying things and stuff like that. And then other complications that are far more, or just too sick to mention. But the point is, that's how I am. You might be different. Some people like gaming, they like to play, video games all day long or whatever in their leisure time. That's cool. I used to be heavy duty into coding and computers and building websites and doing all other kinds of crazy things and stuff and building these funky things to do with code. You know, and I was in radio and all that stuff. And people who've watched this show, they know the litany of things I've done, my career, advertising, publishing, radio management, entertainment. You know, I've been all over the place, been around the world. But the idea is that I'm just saying, I don't, you know, my expertise isn't the Bible, but isn't there a passage in there? I mean, we can look it up because why not? Because I think it was a good passage. There's a lot of good passages, you know, in these old religious texts. I think the line starts out, whenever two or more. Okay, yeah. Here it is. This is Matthew. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. So let's lead this thing down. And I didn't turn this to be a religious thing, but for those who, the first thing that comes up when you talk about this, some people say, oh, this is New Age hooey. And I'm saying, no, if you happen to be a person into the Bible, again, I say unto you that if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is heaven. Heaven being all that there is. The universe, right? Heaven is the universe. The Father, God, is all there is the source of, you know, can be people who don't want to use the word can call that, even spiritual people, they call that God consciousness, you know, the ultimate consciousness, the one, whatever you believe. You could say God, you could say the one, you could say God consciousness, you could say the Father, you could say heaven, the heavens, the universe. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. So what I'm trying to say here and demonstrate is that this idea transcends religion. It's in religion, but it's also in everything. It's in science, right? And so I would hope today, you know, today is a good example, an opportunity. You know, we've had a couple moments this year. There was another moment that, but it was more political that I, you know, like I said, I'd want to avoid politics on a show like this. But there was another moment, another show I did where there was a missed moment by an individual that could have been, you know, could have been one of those key things. Because these are tumultuous times. In many ways, these are almost worse than the late 60s and the 70s, even though we had that horrific Vietnam War, you know. But, you know, we just went through 20 years of war, and we've had so many soldiers killed and so many maimed, and who've come back, and they're just not the same. And it seems that there's, you know, people are trying to recreate the civil rights movement. That so many people worked so hard to solve, and it was solved. See, I came up through that era, you know. I was a child, you know. You know, of this in the 60s. I was a young child in the 60s. But I grew up in this, but I came of age in the 70s. And, you know, so I'm directly connected to, I have direct knowledge of the civil rights movement, feminist movement, and the Vietnam War. And I saw the aftermath of how once that was all over, the relief and how it's just hard to describe what the late 70s were like. It was just pure joy. It was all about love, harmony, peace, love, and harmony. And a lot of people look back and they look at like Woodstock and the Summer of Love and people with a flower painted on their thing on the side of their cheek or something. Now, the 60s weren't about peace and love and harmony. The 60s were about civil rights movement, feminist movement, and the Vietnam, and people dying, coming home, in boxes from the Vietnam War. Families, it was a tragic time. Assassinations. No, this is how, it's funny, revisionist history and how people don't know. And young people today are 2 times removed from that because their parents may have been born, in the late 60s or 1970. Well, that's 50 years ago. Some people have grandparents in their 50s, which means that they're so far removed. In other words, when the Vietnam War ended, if you're 50 years old, you were like you were your terrible twos. You weren't even aware that you were just the world, or you were 2 or 4 years old. You were just running around the house playing with toys, banging pots and pans together. Tonka toys or whatever the heck it is. Building blocks. But I was a man. I had reached. I came of age in the 70s, and so I knew I was directly involved with that. So I knew the horror of the Vietnam War. I saw the tragedies and what, Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about. I knew who Helen Gurley Brown was and all of that stuff. My first girlfriend in college, because I went to college after, and, she was like an extreme feminist type of person. And in those days, guys who dated women like that were considered feminists. So I was like technically a feminist, in the late 70s. Why not? I listened to classic R&B music. It was my favorite music. People like Marvin Gaye, The Temptations, all that stuff. That was the music of the time because it was all peace and love. The Isley Brothers, Harvest for the World. Listen to that song. You want your mind blown about peace? Listen to the song Harvest for the World. And then listen and then think about like some rap song today or some dance song or even some country or rock song today that, basically steals from, rap beats. Because it's all the same producers. But no, go back to the real, go back to Motown, but Motown, post, right towards the end of the Vietnam War, right towards the end of the Civil Rights Movement, and then the aftermath and what it was like and how it just switched into this peace and love and harmony in that situation. Isley Brothers, Harvest for the World, man. Marvin Gaye, a classic album that came out during the Vietnam War. It was an anti-war album, but and then his subsequent songs. But I mean, he was, it was all about love. It was all about harmony. It was all about peace, And then by the 80s, that's like I say, that's when the so-called hippies became the yuppies. And my attitude is screw the hippies, and screw the yuppies. And look what they turned this world into. It's just like it just went downhill. The most beautiful time was that period of time was that in-between time that nobody talks about. They've erased it. And the reason they've erased it is because they didn't want, it's too late now. You can't tell that to somebody. They didn't want young children in schools or pop culture, They didn't want people to know that we all were getting together and getting along, and that life could be about love, peace, and harmony and all that stuff. You see? You know, it's just like, it's like downright evil when you think about it. You know, life was just fun. And everybody wasn't contracting things like cancers, you know? I didn't know a single person of getting, had prostate cancer and stuff like that. And they try to say, oh, people weren't living long then. That's like, screw that. My one grandfather lived to be 90s. My other grandfather, grandfather, they, like they were 80s, Like I say, my mother, God bless her, she's 88 and a half. She's not doing that well right now. But she's 88 and a half. And she's, from that era. My dad died, I guess it's been almost 12 years now, but he made it over 80. He was a good man. Worked his whole life, served in the military, did everything, was a classic American, My uncles all served in the military. It was a military family, basically, if you think about it. But the point is, they did that out of duty. They had to do it, and they served, and they didn't ask. That was the thing. But the point is, they weren't warmongers. They were just doing their duty, just like many soldiers today. That's why I always say that, we talk about the Department of Defense. It's not the Department of the Defense. It's a Department of War. It used to be called the Department of War during World War II. Right? That's what it was, the War Department. Then they changed it to the Department of Defense. It's like another one of these games. It's like a Patriot Act or something. They call it something, but it's a complete opposite. It's like Build Back Better. They're going to build back better. Our infrastructure's falling apart. They don't know what the heck they're doing. The guys, this is the fourth time they're digging up the street here. This is one street out of like America. Imagine out of 330 million people, how many streets are there in this country? And they're going to there's not enough time. It would take hundreds of years to fix the sewer pipes and everything else. We still have power lines, power grid based on what they call telephone poles. And most people don't even use a telephone. They use a smartphone. And they got cable wires on those things, but the power is on those telephone poles. And when it gets cold or somebody's texting and driving and hits one, the grid goes down. And, if we ever had, another serious CME or something like that, we lose the grid. I'm trying to say with all these things, and a lot of this is repetitive stuff from show to show that I talk about, but we've lost our way for 40 years. 35 years at least. I would say around 35 years. 35 to 40 years. We lost our way. There was about 10 years post, it took a couple of years after the Vietnam War for things to settle down because the trauma. It's like trying to deal with any kind of loss, tragedy, grieving period, right? So, it took a little time. So it was the late 70s into the early 80s, but there was probably a 10-year period of time where it was peace, love, harmony, and happiness. So pursuit of happiness, that was a thing, right? I always say I don't like the word pursuit because I don't want to spend my entire life pursuing something. It'd be nice just to be happy. Excuse me. So I hope I set my alarm properly during the course of the day. I don't have anything to do, so all I can tell you is I know what I'm going to do today at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. I guess it's Pacific time, so it'll be 11 if I've gathered that thing right, at 11 a.m. But I'll probably do it again at 2 because I think it's important in your own time zone as well as this whole, group thing. And and if you think this is just a bunch of hooey, and if you watch some of this stuff or whatever, and it seems to be, in your mind, oh, that's like just a bunch of socialists or something like that. It's not. How could you? It's not socialist. You see? It's granted that, there are some people that, push things to the limit, and there's always going to be people that try to, they get caught up in ideology, put it that way. Or something's never enough. And what I'm trying to say is that don't pay attention to them. And don't let that spoil the intention of the original idea. So if the original idea is unity, peace, love, harmony, then that's what you focus on. And like I say, focus, meditate, pray, think. Whatever works for you. It doesn't matter. It's that's the thing. You have to have that. You've got to find that common ground and understand that we're different people because we were brought up different. We come from different cultures, different backgrounds. You can't force your ideology onto someone else. As much as you believe and how fervently you believe in the things that you believe in. And that's why we should have conversations, not arguments. Because maybe you do think that what how you were raised or what you believe is what more people should believe or think. And that's why you would have conversations. That's why you would do a thing like this, for example. Right? Where you present an idea to people and try to talk it out. That's what I find. That's why these long-form videos aren't popular with people because they don't, everybody wants this instantaneous gratification, something quick, something fancy, or I don't want to go there. I don't want to think. That's too heavy, man. You're like a hippie. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm not. I was the in-between. I wasn't a hippie. And I wasn't a yuppie. I was I was like the guy in between. That's my generation. My generation was the generation that basically, we built the world that you are enjoying right now. We were a part of that. But we never intended it to become this ridiculous materialistic, just like we never expected the .com era to become this absurd, ridiculous focus and create these big tech companies that just want to sell, make trillion, Apple to become $1 trillion company or Adobe to withhold software and make you pay monthly to use a software program. Which, like in my case, I purchased years ago. I purchased the program. I have the box. Well, I paid for an upgrade once or twice. But that was I lived too long. Is that the idea? Is that the thing now? And what I was saying before, where people were trying to say how people didn't live too long, I didn't want to lose. I might have people might think I lost that thought. That's today's garbage day. But I was trying to say that in the past couple of years, the life expectancy has dropped by 2 years. So don't go saying, well, people didn't live that long years ago. Okay? They did. And I told you about my grandparents. You know? I hope they take my garbage can. My garbage bags. One of them has a little clank in there that sounds like a paint can. But it's not anything that's toxic. It's rubber. It was that liquid rubber I was using for my roof. I wouldn't put in benzene or something like that would cause a real big problem. Anyway, so no, our life expectancy has gone down, and that's why I added health to that. And I hope that, and I'm really disappointed that this UNIFY site, the main site, only has like what, so, less than 2,000 subscribers. See, the media didn't get behind this. Why? Because they're pushing war, right? Why wasn't this on like the Sunday morning shows? Where a guy could have just did a 2-minute clip. And there's this movement going around. It's called UNIFY, where they're asking everybody on 2/22/22 this week to get together and focus on peace, love, and harmony and unify, and showing a couple clips from that video. And maybe we all need a little more peace in these crazy times. You know what I mean? That I don't even think that was 60 seconds what I just said. But they couldn't take 60 seconds out of that, right? Do you think anybody on, wait do you see, like tomorrow, because that's the game these people play. Tomorrow maybe Joe Rogan will mention it. So I have no way of getting in touch with Joe Rogan. If I did, I would contact him. Those guys don't read your comments, and they usually have guys working for them that like delete them. If you comment. Because you know what I mean? It's funny how that works. It's not funny in a bad way, not funny ha-ha. But, if a guy like Joe Rogan or one of these Tim Pool guys or even Dan Bongino, is this above them? It's not their content. What would they do with content if suddenly peace broke out in the world? What would Joe Biden do or even Donald Trump if they didn't have Ukraine and Russia, right? I mean, the absurdity of Russia is the impetus for people to donate to Save America to Donald Trump and to his new venture. I heard that his new social media platform is already at $60 a share. I mean, we're talking about it's worth billions of dollars, and it hasn't even it's only in beta test because they've gone through some one of these Wall Street things where they set up these like companies that are there because that you can go public by, in other words, somehow you absorb or buy that company and they're already on the stock exchange so they can trade. So there's like people buying this. They're basically investing in Trump so that they could make money. And, if they couldn't criticize, the absurdity of Build Back Better and the absurdity of this Russia-Ukraine war, which I disagree with and I'm vehemently opposed to. I'm a peace advocate. I don't think there needs to be any war. But what I'm saying is both camps, so to speak, both teams, if you want to call it that, it's in their best interest to not have peace and love and harmony. And what does the media do? The media makes a fortune covering a war and covering politics and political years. What does, what's the media do if people are just out there happy? What happens if this were a summer of love and people were just in their backyards and grilling and hanging out and jumping in swimming pools, right? Couples getting back together, an end to this ridiculous pandemic and people just walking hand in hand and kissing and making love, right? Does anybody remember that? Anybody remember a thing called love? Right? Anybody remember hugging? Seeing somebody's face? Do you remember what a human face looks like? See, it's not in the best interest of the corporatocracy. So they won't cover it. So the people that could change the world don't want the world to change. They like it just the way it is. So it's up to us. So it's like that quote, whenever two or three of you gather, in his name. So I'm hoping that maybe even if it's only 1,000 of us worldwide, maybe it'll blossom and it'll get some publicity in time, right? I'll try my best to promote it, but I'm not a great influencer, so but I'll try. I'll probably put the logo on my Instagram account, and with a link to it. Try to find their homepage. I don't know, maybe we should try to find that. See if there is a homepage. I didn't notice that on their website. UNIFY movement homepage. Is this it? Yeah. So they do have a homepage. It's unify.org. Global synchronized meditations, collective social impact campaigns, organized local community chapters. We have unified 100 million people in over 10,000 cities in over 150 countries. Larger global meditation. Join 2 million planetary peacekeepers. Speaking of Martin Luther King Jr. Those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. Right. Participate. Stay updated. Past events. So they've done all these things, but the world is more at war than ever before. It's sad when you think about it. It's really sad. I got to share this page with myself. Send to your devices. That's not going to work. I don't do Facebook anymore. I'll just have to copy the link. And I'll put the link here in my thing, too. Let's see if it does it. Accidentally did it twice. And then I'm also going to, sorry for doing this stuff, but I mean, you should be doing this too when you're watching this. Save. UNIFY, and I'll just save that to my desktop. But like I say, see, this is a prime example. I mean, I'm glad to see, globally. But, even the idea that this organization has existed, it's no publicity here in this country. They're saying 2 million people worldwide or something like that they've reached. But, that's not even, that's like not even 1% of the U.S. population, for example. And forget about the fact that there are 8 billion people on the planet right now. 8 billion. So what would that be? What percentage? It's not, it's not even worth calculating. If it's less than 1% of the U.S., but they're talking globally, because I'm sure this is, you could tell by the look of it that it's like more popular. It's seems to be, you've got yogis and India and, African countries and stuff like that. So it's probably more popular in places like that where people are more directly related to it. See, the problem with America, and some people just, they don't like to hear this, but I know it firsthand because I'm kind of, I live among people, in a neighborhood where there's poverty. Okay, because I live at that level. I've chosen to do that. My own choice, freedom to do what I want to do, not to have to be focused on financial things. Heck, I worked my whole life. I did things. I did my share. I paid my taxes and all that stuff. Had businesses. I think I contributed. I think I made a difference in my life that I had. Hopefully, still have. I mean, right now, I don't know. I do hope people pray, meditate, and think, and I hope I'm a part of that. And people like me, not just me. I'm not selfishly asking, for something. I don't want anybody to have to go through the things I've gone through in the past 5 years or so. Maybe 7 to 10 years even. But the thing is, what I'm saying is that these organizations, there are millions of us out there that believe in peace, love, harmony, and want to do good and care. But, we're surrounded by the trappings of this material world, right? And the constant bombardment. And children are being pretty much indoctrinated in schools not to think this way, right? And there's so much like hate and finger pointing going on, right? And the governments have become, totalitarian states or authoritarians, whatever you want to call them. I always have a problem with both of those words. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Are they authoritarian? Is it authoritarianism or totalitarian states? I don't know. Or both. I mean, they both seem to me to, the way, the type of, the idea that there's some dictator, who, like we think we have free and fair elections and stuff like that. But the point of the matter is, no matter how you look at it with the media involved and campaign contributions and money and lobbyists, there's too much influence peddling going on. And the influence peddling that's going on are people that want to make money on war, right? Big pharma, big ag, GMO stuff that's killing us. Right? And big tech wants to, like my machine, this computer I have won't take the newest operating system. There's nothing wrong with this machine. Right? I know a little bit about coding, and there are hackers out there, these Hackintosh, type of people to take machines that have less processing power than this thing that I have, and they turn it into, manage to make it run the current operating system and stuff. So you're telling me that the people at Apple themselves can't do that, right? They could. They just want you to buy a new machine every 2 years or so. It's ridiculous. They want you to buy a cell phone every year, basically. Even though the smartphone, I think, is outdated, and I've predicted that this will be the last year of it. I mean, I just, But then again, those are soon going to be things for the wealthy only. So people don't realize that by not getting involved in trying to, in these movements of people that are against all of this craziness, this fighting, bickering, arguing, protesting, rallies, right? One against the other, anger, hatred. These comedians on TV, right, poking fun at one another. Like they think it's a big joke. They come out and do a monologue on these nightly shows, and it's all character assassination of of a political foe. How's that funny? You don't laugh at people. That's like laughing at it's, as a child, when I grew up, it's like you didn't make fun of anybody, no matter what. You didn't make fun of a person because they were overweight, because they couldn't talk, right, or had a handicap, or were different from you, But it seems open game for, the type of people running this society. So that's why they're not pushing this. See, I don't, if they would have taken last night on one of the talk shows, the late night talk shows, they would have had somebody on talking about UNIFY and the 22222. But you watch, here's what's going to happen. Tonight on the nightly news, or on maybe a late night show, or tomorrow on the on the Tim Pool show or something like that. I don't mean to pick on that guy, there'll be people talking about, the 22220. It's like, well, why weren't you talking about it the day before so people could get involved? Right? I mean, this is a big deal, and this is a neat idea. I mean, it's cool when people could get together, and the whole number thing is kind of really outrageous, and it's a great idea. It's sad. I just hope more people get involved. And maybe the idea of when 2 or 3 of you gather in his name, the idea, maybe we don't need, maybe 400 of us can make a difference. Maybe 1.7 thousand, or maybe 1 million people, we can make a difference. So I encourage you to do it. And like I say, it has nothing to do with your religious beliefs. It has nothing to do with where your walk of life, who you are, what you. This isn't political. Peace is not political. Peace is natural. Love isn't political. Harmony isn't political. Health isn't political. Enlightenment isn't political. When you're in a hospital or a loved one's in a hospital and they're very sick, the last thing on your mind is money and politics. You know what I mean? The last thing. The first time, I've been in the hospital a number of times. The first time I was in the hospital, I thought I was dying. I thought I had heart problems. I had like an AFib thing. But fortunately, that thing seems to that's like the least of my worries. But the way it was presented to me, and at the time I was overweight, I lost a lot of weight. That's why I have gallstones. Because, believe it or not, gallstones predominantly happen to women. But one of the reasons you can get gallstones, if you lose a lot of weight too fast. And I was a coder, like I said. So I was sitting at a computer, I was a classic guy sitting at a computer with Mountain Dew, drinking a couple glasses of Mountain Dew, getting up early and sitting at the computer right into the evening, right? And just working at a computer all day long. And I just gained weight. And it's not hard to gain weight. And you're just ordering takeout food and you're making good money, so it doesn't matter. So it's like, right? And then I had like Comcast at the time, like full $200 package. So I had any movie, any show I wanted to watch. So when I finally would like put down, walk away from the 12 hours at my computer chair, which is this same chair. It's why it's in such bad shape, because it's been beaten up. I would just go into the bedroom and turn on Comcast on my big screen TV and watch, shows, And so I gained weight, and I ended up with this AFib or something like that. But somehow eventually it just got too much. I just gained a lot of weight, and I ended up in the hospital. And I remember a friend of mine who was my assistant and friend, confidant, came in the hospital to visit me. And I gave her my ATM card, and said, if anything happens to me, just go and take the money out of the bank and take the computers, anything out of the office that you want, and have a nice life. You see what I mean? I had no attachment to that. I thought I might be dying. And I'm like, here, you have a good life and take whatever you want. Because I had nobody, and take care of my cat. It's a sad story. Yeah, I know. I could cry, tear up right now, to tell you the truth. Right? But I got through that, and, I think that was one of those life-changing things, My father died around that same time. Not too long after or before, around that time. I mean, you block things like being in the hospital out of you. I can remember my father's death. But I mean, I don't know if I was in the hospital before that or after that. I forget which one. Because the time at that point, it's just a blur. But since then, I've had multiple operations and stuff, and now they want to do another one. And it's like, so I don't care. I have no attachment to material things. I have all this stuff. When I die, what happens? I don't know. People, well, that guy's dead. What? The city comes in. I don't know the city, any back taxes or anything. I have no, you know what I mean? So what happens? People just come in and take things, I guess. I don't know. Your whole life. You see what I mean? The whole materialistic concept of life is ridiculous because you're on this earth for so long. But our whole society is based on the accumulation of things and the latest computers and the latest this and the latest that. And it's all produced by energy. All matter is produced by energy. That's the singularity concept. The Big Bang Theory. So, I think it would do us all a little bit good to pray, think, meditate, or just focus on peace, love, harmony, health, and enlightenment. Just keep me and people like me in your thoughts when you're doing it. And, it should make a difference. Let's not even be negative. Let's say it will make a difference. It doesn't matter if 2 or more of us get together and do it. I'm counting on it. I'm going to do it. So, I'll just show you that thing one more time, just so you It's not as if this video is that, it's interesting. It's just stuff you've seen before. The point is the time, is just do it. There's something, to get into that energy flow. And like I say, it's the same as a bunch of people sitting around in a prayer group, right? It's the same thing as a bunch of people, doing like a om. Do you know what I mean? It's the same as just a bunch of people, from anything, any kind of thing, any kind of meditation, any kind of spiritualism, any kind, whatever it is. The point is, we can come together. The common ground is that we want a better world. We want peace, love, harmony, health, and enlightenment. I mean, that's what we want. So can't we get together on that and not argue and say, well, that sounds like New Age hooey? Or that's not. It's like, look, I read the Bible, so you can't say it's against the Bible. This is two or more gather. Focus on these things. All right? This is the thing. Or just think about it. If you don't believe in anything, right? If you're just a scientist who believes in the Big Bang Theory, well, at 2 o'clock, just think about peace, love, harmony. A moment of silence. Focus on that. Can you take 20 minutes out of the day? I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could sit there and eat lunch, in a private place, if you're so antsy that you can't sit still for 22 minutes or whatever. Right? As long as you're focused thinking, right? There's no rules to anything. That's the thing. Rules are things that men make up, meaning men, women, whatever, in order to manipulate and control people. There's no rules to these kinds of things. There's the natural law of the universe, right? And like I say, whatever you call, whether it's heaven or the universe or the cosmos, whether it's God, the God consciousness, the one conscious, whatever it's all we communicate. It's like we use words, different languages. We have different words for different things, In French, we refer to a thing a certain way. In English, we have a name for something. In Spanish, we have a different word, and there's a different word in Russian and Chinese, and so it doesn't really matter whatever your language is. This is all just about language. The idea is we're all focused on the same thing, and it's peace, love, harmony, health, and enlightenment. And we're letting all those things slip away from our society, our culture. Instead, there's like a cult of personality. Politics is pop culture. And now this jingoism of war is back. I thought that was gone. I can't believe it. And everyone's in it for the money, for the buck. And all this beautiful information technology, these computer systems, these smartphones, these smart TVs and smart devices and stuff are all being used for what? Materialistic, selfish, self-centered things, and for people to make a buck, billions and trillions of dollars. And you've got talking heads all over, and instead of them talking like I'm talking about peace and love, harmony, health, and enlightenment, they're arguing over politics and war, and they're not making a difference. They don't make a difference. Politicians don't make a difference. We've had both parties in and out and in and out and in and out in the past 35 years, and everything's gotten worse. It's the quality of life. And life expectancy's just dropped 2 years over the past 2 years. So we're failing big time, man. So I'm pleading with you. Do this. See if we can make a difference. Focus, meditate, pray, or just think about it. Wherever your head is, wherever you come from. All right? this might be the last chance we have, because the future's not looking bright if we stay on the course we're on. You know, so I guess I'll end it there, and I hope you have
Good morning.
good morning. And, I'm not going to fixate on, telling you to get my books or any of this stuff. This is just the usual ending. But my site's ROCKFLUX, and I do have a site on Rumble just in case they kick me off YouTube. And, you could always listen to my beat poetry and stuff. But take care and unify. That's the thing today. Forget about, I'm not going to get into my world. Get into that. And let's see if we can make a difference. Take care.